Hey guys, welcome to, I guess, a preview of this evening's edition of the Naked Fisherman. I just wanted to talk a little bit about rod and rod choices, just so that if you go in to buy a rod, you don't look like a dickhead and you know a little bit about what the salesperson's trying to sell you. So I just grabbed 3 of my rods. And I just want to talk to you through a little bit about what the numbers and letters and things on them mean, just to help you set up. And I'm doing this on my iPhone because I'm charging the GoPros. So firstly, you can see here, its length is 2.7 meters and it's a 3-section rod. Now, this is a travel rod of mine. Hence it's in 3 sections, and it's a spin rod. Now how you know it's a spin rod is that S that's just there. So when you're looking at a rod and you're looking down towards the butt end of the rod, which is sort of down here, that S. So you've got a medium heavy, fast is the action of the rod, which talks to you about the taper and how the rod loads when you have a fish on, or when you're tensioning it to cast a lure or a bait. So the rod itself, if you can have a look, it's 2.7 meters. So you've then got 3 sections. Lure weight is 18 to 50 grams. So 28 grams is an ounce. So it's basically saying 3/4 to 2 ounces if you're going to put a bait on, whether that be a livey, whether that be a dead bait or a lure bait, soft plastics, hard baits, that sort of thing. If you're choosing a bait for it, when you're thinking, well, what size bait is best, get something right in the middle. So for until you get used to the rod and the reel and the line, choose something around the middle. So you want to be looking at something about an ounce and a half. Then your line weight is 15 to 30 pounds. Now, again, when you're looking at, well, what line weight should I put on that, look at something in the middle. And that's going to mean that you've got the correct bait weight, the correct line class for that specific fishing rod. Now, as you get more experienced, you're going to change and play with that a lot more, particularly too because it's a medium heavy, fast action rod, which means that you can do some nice flicking of some lighter lures, and you can load it up with something heavier. Now then, I want to show you a bait caster so you can see the seat for the reel on the bait caster is different, and that's a trigger. So any of your overhead rods, well, most of the overhead rods, the old ones didn't so much, but the new ones tend to now, and particularly with all the bait casters, they're going to have this trigger for a trigger grip. But I'll talk to you about that another time. Now, when you have a look at this one, the things here that I want you to see is, firstly, the rod is 7 feet 3 inches. So that's a long bait caster rod, a long bait caster rod. So the classic in between middle infamous or famous bait caster rod is 6'1", so it's a 601. So you will find most people that are proficient at throwing lures and baits on bait casters have a 601 or a number of 601, which is 6 foot 1 inch rods. Now the next thing to look at is that this is a 1-piece. I do prefer 1-piece rods where I can. I have a lot of them because the action of the rod, particularly when I cast and it's loaded up with a fish, the rod, I'm making full use of the whole rod, and the whole rod is loading, and also to the line is running close to the rod itself. So my fishing line which is a bit hard to see because it's a green. So the fishing line itself, when it's under tension or once I've got the bite on and I've hooked the fish, runs very, very close to the rod itself, which means that I've got that fantastic one-to-one contact, direct contact with the fish. Much like fishing with an Alvey side cast reel. For anyone that knows what Alvey side cast reels are, you understand that you've got that direct contact with the fish. Now that days with technology, that's been transferred over to the setup with the rod, the setup with the reel, and then the setup also with the line guides. Now the other thing to look at too is that on the back of these rods here, it can give you a little bit more information. So make sure you look at both sides of the rod. Alright, so the action of the rod is a heavy fast action, which what that means is that it starts off with a heavy taper here and fine at the tip, rather than an 80-20 type rod, which are the old ugly sticks. For those of you that remember the ugly sticks and game fishing. Then you also get specialist rods, and I'm not going to go into these at the moment. I'll wait till we do something on say squid fishing egging. This is my egging rod. You can see it's just got Eggy Max on it. I'm not going to go into any more information about that other than this is my squid rod. I have two. This is my preferred one, which is, again, I'll go through sizing and the ideal size for squidding and eggy rods at another time. But the big thing I just wanted to talk to you about is understanding the information that is actually on the rod and how you translate that over to the equipment that you buy, how you get set up, and so that the salespeople in the shops don't give you bullshit information just to sell you some gear that's not going to work for you. So for those of you running out, wanting to get into bait casting, to throw baits around, the 601 is right damn smack in the middle up until sort of about 6.6. Above 6.6, 6.7 you get into the longer or larger rods, and below 601 you get into the smaller rods, which I particularly like. I've got a lot of 5.4s, which are just absolutely fantastic. But if you're going to go out, buy yourself a 601 and then just understand and have a look at the numbering on these rods and the information, because that'll tell you all about it. And then, I mean, obviously jump onto Google or YouTube and you can see if it's a carbon fibre rod or it's live fibre, whether it's, you know, a fiberglass rod, which you don't see so much anymore. All right, so I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up on that before we went out and did a little bit of night fishing tonight, and I talked to you about what lures I take when I do night fishing. So I'm going to wrap that bit up and I will get back to you once the sun's gone down. Alright, I'm just thinking I should summarise, so I've grabbed an old piece of paper. So on your fishing rod, let's just have a look. You've got some numbers, and those numbers could be, let's say it's E, Z, L, 602 H, F, S. So that's the first set of numbers, right? So forget about that for the moment. I mean, that will determine manufacturer and some ordering bits and pieces. Things to note: 602, so it's a 6-foot rod, it's a 2-piece. That's generally how it works. The fishing rod companies have started to mix it up now, but that's in principle it. You've got medium, heavy. So medium heavy refers to the taper of the rod and where it starts to bend. So if this is your rod, imagine a limp penis. So this is your rod tip. Well, your rod tip's probably going to be down here a little bit more, but in reference to the blank or the shaft of the rod, and here's your butt here. in reference to that, you didn't see it. All right, I'll tell you again. So you've got the rod shaft, or the taper of the rod, or the blank there. You've got your butt, and this is obviously the tip of the rod. When you're referring back here to medium heavy, what it's saying to you is where that taper comes, or where the action of the rod is when the rod is loaded with a fish, a squid, anchor chain, or a stag. F refers to it's a fast tip. So that fast tip there will mean that it helps you set the hook. So it's a fine tip. So perhaps this 20% of the rod here, it tapers a little bit faster than the rest of the rod. And I'm generalising. I know we can pull that to pieces, and we will as we go on this journey together. S refers to that it's a spinning rod. So they're the important things there that you need to be aware of. So the other things that you will see on the rod, written on the rod, usually is, let's say it says 10 to 20 pound, and that might have the word line next to it, or it may not. My writing's shitty. That's the line weight or line class that you can run with. And again, we're summarising. So if you're thinking and you're new and you go into the shop, what line do I buy? Get something right in the middle. And then you'll also have your lure or your bait. So what that means is that you're when you tie everything together, you'll tie together the line weight, you'll tie together the taper and the action of the rod, and then your lure weight might, let's say, be ½ ounce to let's say 1 ounce. Alright, so the perfect lure or bait for that rod is probably going to fall somewhere in the middle here. So about 3/4 of an ounce, and keep in mind an ounce is 28 grams for us in the rest of the world. So that's my summary. So that's summary. So we're summarised. I'm going to add this to the video just so that everything's sort of clarified properly, because as I said, I shot it on my Apple iPhone. So that's us. Take care, fellas. Take care, my lovely chickies or chickas, and remember to tell your auntie I'm single.
I'm fired.